In the grim darkness of the far future, there are no heroes, only survivors. But even among the traitor Astartes, some names stir fear, not for their allegiance, but for their cruelty. Dalchian Rassaq, the Skin-Taker, is one of those names. A Chaos Lord of the Night Lord's Legion, he is a relic of the Long War, forged in the shadow of Nostramo and the brutal legacy of Conrad Kurz. A warlord clad in midnight armor and draped in the flayed skin of his victims, he has spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of terror. This is not a tale of glory, it is a tale of betrayal, vengeance, and dread. This is the story of Dalchian Rassaq. Dalchian Rassaq is no mere warlord in service to the dark gods. Like most of his Night Lord's kin, he spurns devotion to any single chaos power, serving only the principle of fear. He believes that fear is the most potent weapon in the galaxy, and he wields it with surgical precision. They call him the Skin-Taker because he flays his enemies alive, wearing their hides as trophies, not out of madness alone, but as a message. Every strip of flesh is a warning, every scream a doctrine. Rassaq leads a warband known as the Blades of Atrocity, once nearly 40 Night Lords strong. Though now only a small remnant of the 8th Legion, they are masters of infiltration, sabotage, and psychological warfare, living up to the murderous creed of their primarch, Conrad Kurz. Rassaq regards himself and his warriors as superior proper legionaries of the original Legion, looking down on those upstart renegades who lack that lineage. This pride borders on arrogance, a fatal flaw his enemies would soon exploit. Rassaq's most infamous campaign unfolded on the Forge World Uzurmandius, a cold metal tomb of cog priests and machine cults. By this time, his warband was worn down by years of raiding and starved of supplies. Desperate circumstances led them to join a coalition of fellow traitor marines to assault the Forge World. It was an alliance of convenience, formed not by loyalty, but by necessity. Alongside Rassaq marched the Crimson Slaughter, led by the devious Lord Thalissicus, the blood-hungry sons of Malice, the spectral warp ghosts, and the plague-ridden fly lords of Nurgle. Together, these unlikely allies formed a 5-way war council and plotted a 2-pronged assault on Usumandius. Rassaq's disdain for those not of an original legion was thinly veiled, but he masked his contempt enough to cooperate, for now. From the outset, the Night Lord made his presence felt. Rassaq urged the war council to strike the planetary aerodrome first, to control the skies and prevent any escape, but Lord Thalissicus overruled him. Instead, Thalissicus offered Rassaq the honor of leading the initial attack on the planet's principal forge complex. Pride demanded that Rassaq accept this role, despite the risks. He would spearhead the assault on the Templum Capitalis, the colossal central sanctum of Usumandius, while the other warbands ostensibly prepared to support him on a second front. The trap was set. The Night Lords struck first, breaching the defenses of the Templum Capitalis in a nightmarish vanguard attack. Rassaq's warriors moved like a blade in the dark, slaughtering scores of Skitarii troops and smashing aside hulking Mechanicus battle automata in their path. Clad in shadow and gore, the Blades of Atrocity carved a bloody corridor through metal and flesh alike. But as the defenders' resistance stiffened and waves of cybernetic soldiers counterattacked, Rassaq called for the promised second wave. No one answered. In that moment, a chilling Vox transmission crackled over the comm. Lord Thalissicus coolly announced, "There's been a change of plans." Rassaq's allies had betrayed him. While the Night Lords were mired in the fiercest fighting at the heart of the Forge, the other traitor warbands had redeployed to the lightly defended aerodrome, intent on seizing the real prize, the transports and spoils, for themselves. The alliance had never been genuine at all. The Night Lords had been used as bait, a bloody distraction to draw out the planet's toughest defenders. Rassaq and his men now found themselves surrounded, outnumbered, and facing annihilation in the dark bowels of Uzurmandius. Yet Dalchian Rassaq did not break. Enraged and betrayed, he refused to die for his enemy's gain. Instead, he adapted. Rassaq immediately adjusted his tactics on the fly, turning the enemy's treachery into an opportunity for carnage. He ordered his remaining legionaries to scatter and split into nemesis claws, small terror squads operating independently. In these fragmented kill teams, the Night Lords would wage a guerrilla war within the claustrophobic halls of the Forge. Rassaq intended to make the victors of this trap pay dearly for every drop of Night Lord blood spilled. Chaos and terror then became Rassaq's weapons. Lights were cut, blanketing whole sectors of the Forge in Stygian darkness. Vox communications were jammed, sowing confusion among the defenders. Explosions rocked the complex as the Night Lords rigged generators, fuel lines, and data stacks to blow. Shrouded in darkness, Rassaq's terror squads stalked the corridors like phantoms. Skitarii patrols vanished one by one, dragged into unlit chambers and butchered in silence. Panicked machine cult soldiers fired blindly into shadows at enemies they could no longer see. The Forge World's mighty halls, once a fortress, had become a hunting ground. The Night Lords turned the Templum into a slaughterhouse on their own terms, and at the heart of every ambush and act of sabotage was Rassaq himself, directing the carnage with cruel intent. Leading from the front, Rassaq and a handful of his elite warriors fought their way deeper into the complex. Eventually they reached the central reactor chamber, where the Forge World's presiding Archmagos hung suspended in a web of cables above a massive plasma reactor core. Wasting no time, Rassaq personally set the charges onto the reactor housing. In the next instant, a thunderous explosion tore through the Templum Capitalis. The plasma reactor detonated in a blinding flash, and the Forge's heart died in flames. The Archmagos, that grotesque fusion of man and machine, was instantly incinerated, and the central infrastructure of Uzurmandius was crippled in one decisive stroke. The Night Lords had snatched a brutal victory from the jaws of betrayal, but their triumph came at a terrible cost. Of the roughly 40 legionaries who began the assault, only 11 survived. In the wake of the reactor's destruction, the situation for Rassaq's warband was dire. The Forge complex was collapsing around them, and enemy reinforcements were closing in. Worse, the Night Lords had no transports left. Their Thunderhawk gunship had been shot down in the chaos. With his surviving warriors battered and exhausted, Rassaq was forced to improvise a daring escape plan on the spot. On their frenzied dash toward an auxiliary shuttle bay, Rassaq captured a cowering Mechanicus tech priest named Theta Ibriel 7-4, an archivist of forbidden knowledge. Sensing an opportunity, Rassaq spared the tech priest's life on one condition. Theta Ibriel would pilot a shuttle to get the Night Lords off-world. It was an uneasy pact born of desperation, a terrified servant of the machine god, offering aid to a vengeful angel of death. With the tech priest's reluctant help, Rassaq and the last remnants of the Blades of Atrocity commandeered a Mechanicus shuttle and fled the doomed planet. When the ragged survivors reached orbit, however, a final cruelty awaited them. Their warship was gone. The traitorous coalition had not forgotten about Rassaq's band. In orbit above Uzurmandius, the Night Lord's strike cruiser had been destroyed, scuttled by the Crimson Slaughter, while Rassaq was trapped planetside. In the span of a single campaign, Dalchian Rassaq had lost almost everything. His ambush had cost him the bulk of his warband. His promised prize had turned to ash, and now even his means of escape had been taken. The Blades of Atrocity had been all but wiped from the stars. All that remained was cold fury and a hunger for retribution. But even in defeat, Rassaq was not finished. In fact, his mind had already turned to vengeance. Drifting in a commandeered shuttle amid the void, he formulated one last ruthless gambit. Rassaq opened a Vox channel to Lord Thalisicus's flagship and feigned ignorance of the betrayal. Speaking with measured desperation, he thanked Thalisicus for the valiant effort on the surface and pretended that the Night Lords had simply been overwhelmed. He begged for rescue, acting as though he still believed the alliance was intact. Just as Rassaq anticipated, Thalisicus took the bait. The Crimson Slaughter's lord was all too eager to lure in the crippled Night Lords and tie up loose ends. Rassaq's trap was now set. If Thalisicus allowed him aboard under the pretense of an evacuation, the skin-taker would be waiting. Dalchian Rassaq fully intended to worm his way into the Crimson Slaughter's ranks and personally murder Lord Thalisicus at the first opportunity. He would turn the betrayal back on its architect, repaying treachery with terror. The bloody vengeance that Rassaq had sworn was only beginning, and his former allies never suspected the danger inviting itself onto their ship.